Hi folks, and welcome back to the plot. Now today is kind of a continuation of yesterday's video where I ran out of time. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, Sunday morning, and today I feel like I mean business. There's going to be a lot of time lapsing today. I think I made quite a big to-do list yesterday and I was feeling quite relaxed about it, and then actually I kind of thought about it when I got home and I was editing the video and I was getting quite frustrated with myself, just talking. I've been doing a lot of talking recently and I just want to do stuff. So first things first, I started on that compost pile, which I think actually should not be at the top of my priority list. So first things first, I am going to get to work on this tomato support. It should be nice and simple. Everything's been cut to size. I just need to pop in a few screws and a few brackets. Brilliant camera work from me here, as ever. This is, you've not forgotten to put your glasses on, this is just a camera fail. But I just wanted to mention that I did remember to put masking tape along the top of the wood here. That's what you can see me doing. And I'm not sure if this is the best way to make a tomato support. I didn't really look at what other people have done. Maybe I should have, but this seems to have been a good idea for my tunnel. And this little upright that I'm building at the end here, important to note that this doesn't really need to actually take too much weight. It's just there as a little bit of extra support so that it's not kind of flopping around, basically. I'm sure to your average YouTube viewer, this is commonplace. You've seen this before, but this is, for me, the first time that I have ever completed a proper support structure for tomatoes. I mean, I've done it outside a couple of times, but generally, every time when it comes to supporting tomatoes, chilies, cucumbers, melons, anything that wants to trail, peas, the same, I've always had just real trouble, and I've never, this is like, it's one of those things that's quite easy to not do and then regret. You know, oh, I'll just stick a bamboo cane in the ground or something like that, or, you know, deal with it at the time when you're planting out. And actually putting the time in now and getting these in, I am so happy and so relieved. I've only done about half the tunnel, which has given me space for 18 strings. So I've spaced them a little bit wider than I was originally planning, because 3 deep, this is incredibly tight, possibly stupidly tight. I might have made quite a big mistake here, I'm not sure, you know, time will tell, but I have broadened them out a little bit. So we've got 60 centimeters this way. You can get away with 45, I've seen people doing, but I've done 60 just so that I can just about fit in here. It's still going to be a bit of a tight squeeze, but I can, you know, hopefully get in here, do a bit of pruning. I'll be brushing up against tomatoes on my left, but I think I've got just enough room and I am over the moon. The first part was the janky bit because I had to connect these pieces of wood together. I've just got a little plate at the bottom as well that goes into that kind of cross beam there. But this second one's so much easier because I had the door frame there already. So I've just put a couple of screws in diagonally, which hold it in place on each of the door frames. And then, because they didn't quite meet, I thought the best thing to do would be to make sure that this had some weight on this crop support bar. I've just done a little batten across the top and then they're screwed in. And that just means that all the weight isn't on there and the door frame. Now I am gagging to get this ground properly done, properly prepared, ready for the tomatoes and the other mature plants that are going to go in here. And I've got all this kind of manure bags ready in the right place, but it's about 10 o'clock now and it's just starting to warm up. So I might leave that for a slightly cooler day, because I find if I spend too long working in the polytunnel, I'm a bit like a frog, you know, doesn't notice the water is boiling, and then suddenly I've been working in there for 15 minutes. I get the same thing with the greenhouses, you know, 15 minutes or half an hour, you're too hot, and then afterwards you're just kind of cooked. Your brain stops working and it takes quite a long time to recover. So I'm going to find something to do outside. There is one really small thing I wanted to do. Like I said, I'm just trying to rattle through a load of lists on the to-do list today. A load of jobs on the to-do list. And I bought this little pressure sprayer the other day, and one of the things I bought it for is to mist this greenhouse behind me, which last year had spider mites. Now, touch wood, So far, I've not seen any signs of spider mites, but one of the ways that you can apparently kind of reduce the population and keep them down a little is to make sure that you keep it nice and humid under cover. So I'm just going to fill this up with water and give it a little spray. Oh wow, that really is a fine mist. God, can you hear the pressure on this one? I've never used one quite this good. These beetroot are still doing absolutely nothing. Cool. It's a little bit scary keeping tomatoes humid and misted because of all the guidance about blight, and you know, everyone says that they like a good ventilation and that kind of thing, but spider mites are not something that I want to risk. They're just not. So the sprayer works really well, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, recently I've spent a few hours just kind of catching up on allotment YouTube, which isn't something I do very often, and I've realised most people with sunflowers that are in the ground that are this tall, and these are pretty pathetic. And there's a few other things that I'm just going to plant out quite quick. I've got a few flowers. I mean, generally I'm feeling really on top of planting out, but there are a few things that have evaded me. So I think it makes sense to just spend a little bit of time, probably off camera, tune into one of the allotment tours if you want to see how everything is looking in the beds at a later date. But I'm just going to whiz through and do a few of these now. These are gorgeous. Look at the colour of this cosmos. I don't think this is one of the Apricotta Pro Cut ones. Might be. Is it Pro Cut? I don't know. It's so incredibly satisfying just rattling through a quick few jobs. The sort of thing that you wouldn't normally put on a to-do list, but yesterday I was really quite meticulous and I just want to get lots of relatively small bits out the way first. I can see that compost bay that I started yesterday. That is still a big job, but like I say, that is going to take hours. So next I want to work on some peas. I've got a little row of peas in here, they're doing okay. They've been a little bit more work than I had imagined. I've just got two kind of metal stakes either end, and I'm stringing around them as they grow up. And it is a bit frustrating, to be honest. Now, what I want is another line of peas in here. And this time I think I'm going to try direct sowing. I tend to have a slightly mixed results with direct sowing just because of the mice. But I find a little bit later in the year, it's not like when you plant them out in March when, you know, I think the mice are really hungry, there's not much for them to eat, and your peas get absolutely devoured instantly. A little bit later in the season, I tend to have slightly better luck. Now, what I want to try for support frame this time is actually this old bed frame that I found dumped outside someone's house that they didn't want anymore. And I think what I want to do, what do I want to do? I probably want the peas, I want to plant the row of peas close to this trellis so that they can climb up it easiest. So if I had it this way, they would go in there, but if I flipped it around, it would go in here. And I'm just thinking about the light. I think this is probably the best way to have it. And I could bury this in the ground, but it does look pretty sturdy, but it might start to rust. So I think what I'm going to do is just lean it up like this and then get a few pins and then tie it in. I don't have any cable ties, which is a bit annoying, but you get the idea. I'm going to get this set up and then direct sow loads of relatively kind of dwarfing peas. I think I've got some Kelvedon Wonder in the Polytunnel. Now, I spent a little while talking about how to orient this, and then in the end I just went, you know what, I'm going to plant peas on both sides. Give them a chance. The peas are all in safe, but I do feel like I've lost momentum slightly because the next job is one I really don't want to do, and it's because it's faffy, it requires thinking, kind of critical thinking, and it requires precision. Which is when these are not qualities that I bring to the allotment really, so not looking forward to it. But the idea is I basically want to put something on these doors to stop birds, foxes and mice basically getting in to the polytunnel. It's now getting to the point where it's warm enough that I basically, in an ideal world, would have the doors open at all times, but I still need to close them at night, just because mainly of the foxes. That's the thing I'm really worried about. They will get in there, they will dig, and they will rip the tunnel skin. For some reason, the foxes here, they love to do it. They had a really good go at it in the past. So every night I do have to close this, and although this is vented at the top, it still gets so much hotter in there with these closed because it's plastic at the bottom. And when these are both wide open, it does massively increase the ventilation. It actually makes it much cooler in there than I was expecting. I've done quite a lot of work in the tunnel with just one of the doors open, and it's only recently I've started opening the one at the back, and I'm like, oh, it really does make a difference. So I need to knock something up, but you see, I just don't really have a plan yet. I do have quite a few bits of timber knocking about that I think should be good. Oh, goodness me. I've still got some more raised beds to make with these, but that looks like it'll be a nice cross piece. Yeah, hopefully. Look, there's 4 there. They can go across the top and the bottom, and then, oh yes, okay, I think we're in luck. So the other issue is I have lots of assorted bits of chicken wire in lots of different places, and a lot of it is quite old, so hopefully I can find enough to cobble something together. Now, making this up is one thing. That should be relatively easy. You know, you make up a little frame, you staple some chicken wire to it. The tricky bit is going to be getting something that can easily kind of rest on the inside of the door frame, so that I can leave it there overnight and it will stay in place, but something that I can also easily kind of lift off, put on the floor or put in the shed, when I have a shed, and then, you know, put back on at night. Wondering if a little, there's nothing obvious that I can just hook this onto. Imagining this was a frame. And I don't want to have to like screw it in every time. Maybe I could use a wing nut, but that would have to go right through. You'd have to get a massive bolt, and it would be quite difficult. Although, if I only did it this high, that would be fine. Nothing's getting in up here. And then you could reach over the chicken wire and undo a little wing nut and then lift it. It'd be a bit awkward. Oh, you know, you'd have a frame, wouldn't you? You see what I mean? It's going to take me a while to figure out. There we have it. Now, it's a bit of a bodge job, but it's come together better than I thought it would, to be honest. And this, the one that you've just seen me putting together, is the second one. The first one I did first off camera, just in case it went really wrong and I wanted to hide my shame, and also just cut down the runtime a little bit. Now what I've done is basically, the first one I got perfect. It was actually a fluke, nothing went wrong, it went perfect. This one has gone okay, but it's not quite as nice. But basically, there's something about the way that I've done this so that it just fits inside the frame, and I don't need to latch it. I don't need to like use a mechanism to keep it in place because of the way that I've done it. It's just pushing tight against the door frame itself. So, I mean, it's a little, this one is not as great as the one downstairs, but you know, I could put that in and walk away and be up here fine. But if a fox came along and gave this one a little wobble, it doesn't take much. So this one definitely needs a latch. The one at the back, however, I'm not really sure why, but this thing is just like, it's like I've concreted it in. It's really quite, you know, it doesn't want to leave this place. I've just jammed it in just right. The measurements just matched up. This one is really quite raggedy. The chicken wire is a bit run down, a bit old. There's a couple of holes, but this will do the job. I can walk away. This one especially, I could leave this overnight and be just fine. But I would like to put something on it, something, I don't know, just a latch or something. A wing nut is an option, but I've not left enough. The bits of wood weren't big enough for a wing nut to go through here actually. I think the easiest thing to put on here might just be like one of those, like a shed latch or something like that, or you know, just a hoop on this and a little dangly hook on this. But yes, pretty happy with this, all things considered. It looks a bit rough and ready, but it will do the job. I'm sure by the time I'm filming the next video, I will have got a little latch for this. It just needs something to hold it in place, just in case, really. But pretty happy. It did take a little while. The day has moved on. What time are we on? Just check the phone, and it is 2 o'clock. But what's next on the to-do list? I did just want to mention before I go on to the next to-do list, obviously it's much easier to get this in the door frame when you're inside, but when you're outside it's a little more tricky because it's a little tight at the bottom on both sides, and that's good. The tightness at the bottom there is what holds it in place, but it's bad because it's actually quite difficult to get into place from the outside. What I've done is the piece that goes across the edge there, it's longer than the uprights, and that's deliberate so that it butts into here, which is very nice. I couldn't do that on the bottom though because of the raised bed and that kind of thing, so it's a little more awkward. What I feel like I really need is some kind of like handle, or maybe I'll just put a couple of screws in, and then I've got something that I can grab onto and just pull this tight at the bottom. So I can get it in place while I'm outside, and you know, now it's time to go home and I can leave this, but yeah, it won't take much. So this one does need a latch. Well folks, let me tell you, there is still lots and lots to do. And what I've got my eye on, either the compost bay at the back there and the potato pots. Maybe I could procrastinate because I don't want to do that. It's still quite warm. I'm thinking maybe time for a bit of bed prep. Now the idea was these 2 beds this year were going to be for my brassicas. I was going to go all out, and I do have a bit more than I normally would. I've just re-sowed some, and basically I'm kind of ready to get one of these at least ready for brassicas. This one has had manure on it, and it's still just kind of sat on the surface, raw horse manure. So I think I'm just a little bit nervous about it. I don't think there's too much there. I think if I kind of break up the surface and mix it all in, I can probably plant into it. This one though is pretty much ready. I've tried to put in some spring onions and some beetroot and they're just dying. I do have a load of bronze fennel though at the front here, which I normally love, but with the brassica netting, which I need to put on here now, that is going to be a pain. So I've got a choice: brassica bed, compost. Brassica bed, compost. I think I'm going to do the brassica bed because I don't want to do either of them, but I'm in a doing mood today. So we're going to get this brassica bed weeded, turned over. Am I going to mulch it and manure it? I don't think I've got enough. I have ordered some more manure, but it's not going to be here for another month. So it looks pretty good. I'm going to just give this a quick weed, and then I'm going to tackle the netting and the blue pipe. Things that I don't really enjoy. Wish me luck. Oh, it's done, folks. I don't know, that should not have been tiring. I'm not sure why I feel quite so tired. It's coming up to 3:30, so we're getting towards a good shift, but very pleased to have this completed. But what I've done this time that I don't normally do is bamboo canes. In the past I've used metal, all those kind of thinly wrapped in the green plastic metal canes, and they've just started breaking. I didn't even buy them that long ago, they just didn't last that long. And the bamboo canes that I invested in last year are they're really thick, they're really strong. They're also quite tall, so it did take a lot of effort getting them far enough in the ground. The main reason I've gone for so much more height is A, to hopefully make it easier to work in here, because I don't enjoy putting this up, and the thing I really don't enjoy is getting under it to weed and take care of the plants, check for pests and all that kind of thing. So I think that's one of the reasons sometimes my cabbages aren't the best, but the other reason that I like to have it this high is so that I can do purple sprouting broccoli in the middle, which gets to obscene proportions. It really is shocking how tall it gets. So I'm hoping that these bamboo canes will survive. I'm not sure. I'm, you know, kind of fingers crossed. Hopefully they will last the season. But I've been saying ever since I started this YouTube channel, that this is one of my least favourite jobs. And what I would really like is a brassica cage. I still haven't done it though. I still haven't done it, have I? And I probably could have at this point, but yeah, one day maybe. I did wonder as well, now that I've got the bed, I was like, oh, maybe this will be way easier and I can just use the blue pipe, you might have seen that, and then just get those little clips that you can put into the beds. And that might be something I do in the future as well. But it's done now, that's a good thing. The unfortunate ththing is, this is only bed 1 of 2, so I do want to do something. I'm really tired, guys. I'm really tired. I'm flagging. I was going to say I want to do that bed as well, but that's not happening today. I think I do, though. I should really get those potato pots done. The thing I started at the end of my last episode, potato pots down and having a look at my own compost. Now, yesterday I only gave you a peek at the compost, really, but hopefully you can see why when I opened this up, I was really quite surprised, and I thought, hey, this looks like some good stuff I could actually use. So I'm gonna get that top layer, all of this stuff up here, kind of scraped off into the wheelbarrow. I'm not gonna put it into here because this bay is completely kaput, but I'll put it into the wheelbarrow, get the compost out. I'm not sure what I'm gonna put the compost in yet. Oh dear. And then I can put the stuff on top back in the bay, basically. Good news and bad news. Good news, quite a lot of good usable compost in here. Bad news, that's a lot of work to move. No, seriously though, it's been an interesting mix. The compost that I've made is not a fantastic quality. I'll show you a close-up in a minute. The other bad news is I've got so 2 bags, good bag, decent enough compost, bad bag, things that need to go back in the compost. I just don't have enough room to shuffle all of the stuff around. It really is a good idea. This is such a good example of why you want a 2-bay system set up properly. I haven't run out of time yet, but I am running out of time and energy, and I do want to get those spud pots like sorted. That is my main reason for actually doing this, is so that I can plant up those potatoes. And I want to get some sweet potatoes planted as well, which is something I'd forgotten about. So this compost, yes, it's like I was actually wondering whether or not it was compost or soil. It's really heavy. It's got that kind of grey, slightly anaerobic colour. It smells fantastic. It smells completely fine, and it does crumble up when you kind of give it when you crumble it. But I was wondering, you know, is this all just grass clods? Is this clay soil? But it's not. I am finding so much evidence that this is mostly food waste and grass. I know it's grass because I remember putting lots of grass in here. And I know it's food waste because I keep finding compostable bags, which it turns out are not compostable, and eggshells as well. That and eggshells are the main kind of telltale signs that I have been loading this with lots of kitchen scraps. So I think it's just been too wet. You know, I made this, I think not last winter, the winter before, I think. So this has been filling up for 18 months, I think. And I haven't turned it once. You know, I've just been bunging it in here. It's a bit of a slow compost, bit of a bad compost, but I have an absolute ton. I mean, maybe literally a ton of homemade compost. This is definitely the most I've ever made. It's moist. It's not like waterlogged or anything like that, but it's definitely not that loose, light, dark color. It's got a slightly gray tinge. It's not got that super dark black gold look about it. There's probably a good bit of horse manure mixed in here too. So I think this will be good to use for those potato pots. There's still absolutely loads in there, and maybe 20% of that kind of around the top there will go in the bad compost. But most of this is usable. So for now, I'm going to get this mixed in with the bathtub, all of the stuff from here anyway, and the kind of bad compost and sorting this all out a bit properly will wait for another day, I think. The other thing is, I do want to get home. It's coming up to about 6 o'clock now, and I do need to get home and edit. So let's get these potatoes planted sooner rather than later. Tubs are done. I am so tired. I am feeling it. These are the seed potatoes I've got, and I mentioned that these have been kind of languishing and were not looking great. Maybe a slight understatement. They have been, a lot of them have been nibbled. Not looking good at all, but I'm not going to plant those obviously. But there are some which look fine. I mean, they've seen better days, but we'll stick them in the pots and see how they do. The main thing that I am excited about with these is it means I can get my first sweet potato on the go. I do want to do sweet potatoes under my tomatoes in the polytunnel, and I think it might help with keeping the ground moist and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, they really do need to get in there, but I'm trying. There's still a lot on the to-do list. I really am trying as hard as I can, but we will get there. So I'm just going to put a couple of seed potatoes in these each, and then move them to their new home. I probably should have put the seed potatoes in while I was planting. That would have been clever, wouldn't it? But never mind. Drop a couple in, kind of chitten bits up. There you go, one potato tub done. Oh, they are heavy though with that homemade compost. I'd be quite curious to see how weedy, or you know, weed-free maybe this homemade compost is. I wouldn't say I've got high hopes for it, but it might surprise me. I don't really know. Like I say, the texture is it's not great, but there's got to be some good nutrition in there. There's got to be, because of all the food scraps and stuff I've put in there over the last, 18 months. Oh, good Lord. Oh, good Lord, that is heavy. Today is a workout. Today is definitely a workout. I imagine when I water these, they'll compress down a fair bit, so I might set aside some horse manure just to mulch, because it's so good for keeping it weed free, if nothing else. And I think it really helps to keep moisture in, which is kind of main objective with these potatoes. I find the biggest issue with having them in pots, definitely for me, is the watering. They are very, very thirsty. But there we go. That's the boring potatoes now, the exciting potato. Look at this. They look quite healthy. They did have a little bit of a ropey moment, these slips that I ordered. These were a postal order. They arrived in I was going to say the middle of April, but that can't be right. Is that right? I'm not sure. I'll put the date on screen. And they did look pretty sad, to be honest. I potted them up into these little, just these 2.5-inch pots, but yeah, they have bounced back quite nice in the greenhouse. But I saw Tony C. Smith has got his in the ground already, and I was like, oh, Tony, I need to keep up with you. He's doing really well. His tomatoes, for example, his tomatoes are so fine. His chilies have caught up, But yes, very, very healthy looking plant here now, I think. Wait, did I just put potatoes? Oh no, which ones did I just put potatoes in these? JP, you idiot! You idiot, man! Which one? I'm gonna watch the video back. I'm very glad I filmed it. I'm very glad I caught my mistake. It is this one that we want to plant into. I don't think you need to do anything special with these. Oh, they're looking healthy. Well, borderline root bound. Not quite though. Seems like it's just about the right time. Maybe they could have gone out a week earlier. Quite happy. These are exciting. This is exciting. Today has been not an exciting day. I've not enjoyed it. It's been nice ticking off the to-do list, but I have not been having fun. I will tell you that for free. It's very, very satisfying work, but today has been a slog and a rush. So finishing it off with this nice little job is quite good. Oh, this is heavy. Oh, this is heavy. Oh. One down. Did I mention these were heavy? Oh, good Lord. Two down. These are, by the way, a mixture of King Edward's and Red Duke of York. So they're both fairly long-term ones. Red Duke of York can be an early, but if you leave it, they really get fat like a baking potato, apparently. Oh, last one. Yes, the potatoes are done. What started is just a little, oh, maybe I'll plant some more potatoes yesterday. It's turned into spending hours and hours tinkering with compost bays and all that kind of stuff. So it feels amazing for them to be there now. Do you know, I actually took this chair out of the polytunnel and I was like, that's it. It's never coming back in until winter. But Jess came up the other day. I wanted to sit in here. So the chair is back, and for some reason I've put the camera there instead of closer to the chair. That looks dodgy. That'll do, we'll have a wonky chair for now. Oh, wow. Oh. Do you ever just sometimes sit down and it feels like the best thing in the entire world? Like the best thing that's ever happened to you? I just wanted to come into the polytunnel briefly to reflect on the stuff I've done and the stuff that I still need to do. I just yesterday I was like, oh, it's so chill, you know, I'm feeling really relaxed and really just want to get stuff done at the moment. It's a good feeling, you know, when you're, it's not like, I'm not reluctant to come up, you know, I woke up this morning, I was like, yes, let's go, I've got the to-do list. And I know I just said I've not really enjoyed it today, but that's a bit of a lie. It does feel really fantastic. I was just very, very tired at the time. So, this is why I wrote this to-do list. I've got on here harvest rhubarb and harvest lettuce because I always forget to harvest. You know, when you come up and you've got so much to do and then we go home and Jess is like, do you get the lettuce? No. How did I forget? So, and you see, the thing is, harvesting, it's quite often something I want to do straight away when I arrive at the plot, but then I don't want to leave a lettuce sat in a plastic bag for an entire day while I'm up here working and doing other stuff. It's so easy to just ruin your produce like that. Ask me how I know. But it's very easy if you leave it to the end of the day to just want to pack up and get home. Got to do some harvesting. I do want to remove this hanging shelf as well. This is stuff still on the to-do list. Remove the hanging shelf, plumb in the autopots properly, cut out and lay this irrigation system, give the bed a little weed, a little tickle, and get that manure down. And actually that's pretty much it. I do have one other thing that I've put on here, which is a little bit cheeky, which is to try and maybe do something similar with the tomato supports for the small greenhouse. So I just need to put all of this on the done list because I cannot believe how much I've done today. The timber supports, that was today. That feels like days ago. We tested out the mister, planned out some sunflowers and other bits. I did those bed frame peas. This all feels like days ago. The chicken wire doors, of course. Yeah, I do need a latch for that, but I feel completely delirious. I feel like I'm losing it, but I'm so happy with that one at the back. And I can leave that tonight and everything's gonna be that little bit cooler in the mornings. You know, I'll probably be up here to tomorrow morning, but when I'm in Italy next week and when I'm coming up during the week, this week, then it'll just be nice that it's much cooler in the day. The brassica netting, yeah, that was a faff. I didn't talk to you either about, I had to sew the ends together. Basically, I got some twine, I got some of this, and I had to actually like sew in between the netting to tighten it up right at the end, you know, on the bit that goes over the frame, because there's enough material there, but you can't just scrunch it all up. Like if it was a little bit lower, because I've gone so high, I had to like properly sew it and spend ages like faffing around with this string. It's just, oh dear me. And then I've got the compost bays on the done list, although that is literally half done. It is so chaotic, but the potatoes are done, which is the important thing. Fantastic progress, and tomorrow is a bank holiday Monday. So I'm gonna be feeling pretty sore, I think, and it's like 6:15 now. There's no way I've got time to go home, cook dinner and edit this video. I'm done. So I'll be editing this bank holiday morning and then come up and hopefully get this side of the polytunnel done tomorrow on the bank holiday. Maybe a bit of this as well. And we are winning. We are winning. Thank you ever so much for watching, folks. An extra special thank you to all of my Chili Pepper tier patrons: Tony, Bill, Pam, Louise, Mel, Michael, Denise, Socks in the Garden, Andrew, Sarah, Louise, Dorcasaur, Angela, Andre and Brett. Got it again in one. Yes, I have so much clearing up to do. I brought so much stuff up with me today. I've got to go all around the plot, picking up all the tools, all the stuff I've left around. We're getting there. Hopefully I'll see you again next time.